Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for Dancing Dragon Castle. This event is our introduction to Hibiki and Chikagi, a pair of characters that people will pretend to recognize from Carnival Phantasm, but realistically they ignored them. Just like the Tsukihime characters. I do have a servant guide on the pair, if you want to read ahead. But setting Hibichika aside, Dancing Dragon Castle is primarily an engine for farming materials. Mechanically, think of it like a mix between Gura Gura Shin Yamataikoku and 8 Dog Chronicles. You farm components which, with a delay, you can convert into skill items. As you proceed along the event's main quest, you unlock more slots, which let you commit more item conversions at once. The prep time depends on the rarity of the item in question. Here's the menu, and I'll say that for my purposes, Lamps and the Lost Belt 6 items are of particular interest. Some of these recipes are given bonuses each day, and these finish faster. Because the number of sweets you can make increases based on your event story progress, it's in your interest to keep current, preferably on the same day the story comes out. There are time gates, so you can't just plow through the entire event on day 1. Gotta rush ahead at each reset. To improve your ingredient gain, you'll want to grab Mr. Red Gadget. This craft essence also improves your point gain. There's a point ladder, and progressing through it is how you unlock new chapters of the event main quest. 4 copies of Mr. Red Gadget are in the shop, while the last one is in the point ladder alongside this event's command codes. Speaking of which, we've got 3. Savage Dog of Ulster gives sure hit and crit damage. Large Bone Blade wafting in ghastly air, name of my next metal album by the way, while this one has burn and crit damage. Lastly, Mr. Smartphone provides a combo of NP gain and star generation. Before I get to the high difficulty stuff, I want to point out that Kiyohime gets some love in this event. She gets a costume, Kiyohime the Otohime, which you can grab in the shop. She also gets a new strengthening quest, which upgrades her second skill to get an anti-buff against burned enemies. This also gives her 10% charge on hit against those same burned enemies. Kiyohime has a pretty bad stat line even among 3-star berserkers, so this probably doesn't make her ideal. But if you like to live dangerously, she's much more usable than she used to be. The 90++ quest for this event sucks, since it's a 1-2-3 arrangement with a huge 300k rider only in Wave 1 and a 780k foreigner in Wave 3. This makes a lot of the team-building shortcuts impractical without committing even more damage to the process. Voyager being the final boss further complicates matters, since he's a foreigner but not a threat to humanity, which removes some of your better tools. If you want to min-max and go for a 6 slot, I found that a very high-level Kukul Khan can deal with both enemies, but the damage check is very tight, so unless you have her at NP5, don't expect good results. This is, of course, assuming a 6 slot, which means you're only using event and utility CEs, assuming there isn't a special event damage CE, which, unfortunately, Dancing Dragon Castle doesn't have one of those. The one upside to doing such a run is that Mr. Red Gadget is a starting charge CE. In practice, you'll probably find yourself using first day of filming at the very least. For most other attackers, Black Grail. If you're looking for ideas in a 5-slot team, Hibiki and Chikagi work due to their event damage bonus. You can also try the 6 slot with them, but you're pretty much going to need a bunch of NP levels and or grails, because that Wave 1 damage check is a real motherfucker. Other potential attackers include Tiamat, Meltverlis, and Tezcatlipoca. You can also run Sojiro to kill the Oni on Wave 1, but he needs a lot of help to meet the damage check, which may put you in the unflattering position of running 2 Black Grails. A great number of you won't have a good, consistent way of clearing the 90++ node, so if that isn't working out, the 90+ is significantly easier with a 2-2-1 arrangement of casters. You can handle this with a Buster team, or just by charge stacking onto your generalist AoE attacker of choice. Aside from the challenge quest, this event is available as soon as you finish Fuyuki. For the CQ though, you'll need Part 1 completion. This fight pits you against 4 enemies, a 1-bar Daikokuten, a 2-bar Fujino, and a 3-bar Hibichika up front, with a 2-bar First Dasan in the back. At the start of the fight, Daikokuten gives you a free arts buff. She gets a full meter and a large 50% arts resistance buff. She's an AoE attacker, so you want to stop her from cashing this out, either with Brute Force or Castoria's NP. Just be aware that Hibiki, Chikagi, and Fujino move first, so a single stack of protection won't save you. You'll have to overcharge. Once Daikokuten goes down, she revokes the free arts buff and doubles its magnitude as a debuff. Fujino gives herself 5 turns of a large but surmountable defense buff. Also a trait which she can spend to give one of her teammates a defense buff and your team free charge. On break sheds a party-wide 5-turn defense buff for the enemy team and debuff resistance as well. The trait icon also refreshes, which lets her charge up both you and one of the enemies. It has other seemingly random effects including debuff removal. Fujino can use this mechanic in reaction to your skill use, and she can do it multiple times in a single turn, so it's in your best interest to use all relevant non-defensive skills before popping her break bar. When a frontline slot clears, presumably from Daikokuten going down, First Dasan takes the field. He gives your team a buster buff, and for himself, a buster resistance buff and a chance to insta-kill on hit. On break, his insta-kill chance goes up for 5 turns, and he gains accelerated charge for 4 turns. On defeat, he acts like Daikokuten, removing the free buster buff and doubling it as a debuff. Lastly, Hibichika starts the fight by giving a free quick buff to your team. For herself, quick resistance, crit chance, and charge gain on crit. On her first break, she gains 5 turns of purge resistance, which is going to be a problem if she pops her evade and you're trying to use someone like Summer Ibuki as your main attacker. She also gets a customer service trait, which she can spend seemingly to give attack buffs to her party and defense buffs to herself. On second break, she gives herself even more crit chance, and her party gets a substantial heal every turn for 5 turns, 50k in magnitude. On defeat, she does the usual, revoking her quick buff and replacing it with a larger debuff. One thing that's very dangerous about Hibiki and Chikagi is that their Noble Phantasm is an AoE attack that purges defensive buffs preemptively. For most teams, this is going to put your frontline on a timer, and you need to bring her to heal within 3 turns, possibly less, depending on what she and Fujino do. If you're having trouble meeting this damage check with an AoE servant of your own, consider running her down with a borrowed Summer Castoria or some other big dick single target attacker. This is a very messy fight to do with a single target servant, but removing Hibichika within your initial buff window is essential to winning. While the card type debuffs are annoying, they are surmountable with sufficient buff stacking. To this end, I had success using a Chen Gong team. It may seem counterintuitive to use an AoE arts attacker, since that's the first buff you lose, but Daikokuten only has 1 bar of health. If you can overcome her arts resistance, then you don't have to worry about stalling out against the other enemies. This is particularly important for fighting Hibiki and First Hassan, who can wipe out your team if they're left unmolested. If you're confident in your damage, you can also run an AoE buster attacker instead. Every enemy aside from Daikokuten is human attribute, which makes them vulnerable to Queen Light's anti-buff. And if you're using an attacker like Queen Morgan, then she can double down with her own anti-human damage. If you go this route, you'll want to commit your big crits to First Hassan, since you'll take significantly less damage. If you're a player with a relatively undeveloped account and want to clear this fight, the easiest way is probably to borrow a strong Summer Ibuki or Morgan and blitz them into Hibichika in particular. If you have a source of protection, you can pair it with Ju-Force and a Nightingale to keep your main attackers safe against the main duo's Noble Phantasm. Otherwise, you'll just need to take them out and clean up whoever's left with a healthy backline. Thanks for watching, lads. If you're watching this the week the event comes out, I'll be rolling for Azumi no Isara, aka Hibiki and Chikagi on Sunday. Otherwise, I'm usually doing something FGO related on Sundays, so stop by if you want to see what I get up to. On other days, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, sometimes Tuesday, I play other oddball games if that kind of thing interests you. Twitch.tv/Finotaisen. 3 p.m. Pacific time is when I get underway. See you there.